The World Cup, as you may know, is now in the knockout round with teams hoping to reach the tournament's quarterfinals. And in the latest round of NBR's own Ultimate Stock Cup, we pit the world's two largest automakers head-to-head to see who comes out on top in the global marketplace. It's the U.S.'s General Motors and Japan's Toyota. General Motors, GM, the world leader in auto sales every year from 1931 to 2007. Founded in 1908, GM is headquartered in Detroit. 2013 revenue, more than $155 billion. And the list of past and present GM brands is a who's who of American automobile history. Icons like Buick, Oldsmobile, Cadillac, Pontiac, GMC, and Chevrolet. And it almost came to an end with a bankruptcy filing in 2009. But GM was bailed out by the federal government. And last year it sold more than 9.7 million automobiles, trailing only Toyota, which sold more than 9.9 million. But GM outsells Toyota in both China and the United States, the two largest markets. Japan's biggest company by market cap, it was founded in 1937, and it's headquartered in Japan's Toyota City. 2013 revenues were more than $222 billion. GM may outsell Toyota here in the U.S., but the Toyota flagship Camry sedan has been the best-selling passenger car here in the States for 15 of the past 16 years. Also notable, the Toyota Prius became the world's first mass-produced hybrid in 1997. Its other brands include Scion and Lexus.
Well, let's turn now to Ephraim Levy to weigh in on this rivalry. He favors Toyota and joins us now. He's with S&P Capital IQ. Why Toyota over GM? What are the strengths?
Well, we don't differentiate between two companies that we have a strong buy on, which is the case for General Motors and Toyota. But if you take the market close relative to our target prices, the edge is Toyota, which has 30% potential upside over the next 12 months versus 28% upside for General Motors, so that's pretty close. Both of these companies are benefiting from rising global demand. It's a favorable industry trend. You have a lot of emerging markets. People are buying cars for the first time. And back home in America, you have a rising market with a strong economy. You have a lot of new features, technology, and the average age of a vehicle is over 11 years old. So you have people coming in to the dealerships to buy cars, and that helps both of these companies.
No question, Ephraim, the GM recalls have been a disaster for that company from a public relations standpoint. Do you think it dents their sales? Does it tarnish their brand? What do you think about that, especially when you're comparing it to Toyota here?
Sure. It's something you don't want to have. It's something that weighs on the brand image to a certain extent, but we don't think that it will make a major difference in terms of the company's sales, which is something we've seen in the past 2 months for May and June, where their sales were actually pretty good for a company that has a lot of recalls. And the reason we think this is because it's that recalls are part of doing business in the automobile industry. You're going to always have recalls. Some will be smaller, some will be larger. You want to keep out the headlines. And if you have a situation where people are dying from it, like the ignition recall, that's going to hurt mostly the people who've been involved with accidents and know the people. But overall, they have a broad enough brand that they can be disciplined and people will stick with them and expect them to do better.
You know, Ephraim, you say that the auto industry always has recalls, but in this case of Toyota and General Motors, they both have had or are going through very high-profile credibility issues with their recalls. When you look at it from a crisis management point of view and how these two companies have handled it in the case of Toyota, it's in the past, and GM is currently, who's been doing a better job?
I'd say that the edge for this goes towards General Motors. In part, they learned a little bit from Toyota's experience. Toyota had a problem that they were not acknowledging once the news was out, and they did a bad job with their public relations. GM, obviously, this is old news that should have been disclosed a long time ago, but once it was out, they went to the forefront. They had the advantage at General Motors of a new CEO who was not involved, and she's showing that this is a new GM, not the old GM. This is not going to be stood for in the future.
Very quickly, alternative fuel sources. Do you give Toyota points because of the Prius, the hybrid that has reached mass appeal at this point, or what do you think about the comparison there?
Absolutely. Toyota has a clear advantage. The Prius and the Prius family is the #1 selling hybrid vehicle. If you're buying one, you're most likely going to buy a hybrid. Obviously, there's other, a Prius. Obviously, there's other choices out there, but they're number one in the mindset of the customer.
All right, Ephraim, thank you so much for joining us. Ephraim Levy with S&P Capital IQ. And so you just heard what our guest thinks, and now we want to hear from you. Which stock do you prefer, General Motors or Toyota? Go vote on our website, NBR.com.
And now the results from last week's Global Rivals Challenge, where we asked you to choose between General Electric and Siemens of Germany. You picked GE. It was a clear victory, by the way, with 64% of you voting for the U.S.-based conglomerate.